Eliminating plastic waste by advancing circularity is an initiative realized through the generous funding of the Japanese government. Instead of the traditional linear model of make, use, dispose, this project emphasizes reducing plastic use, reusing materials, and recycling waste to minimize environmental impact and foster sustainable development. Nigeria. Nigeria generates a significant amount of plastic waste, estimated at 2.5 million tons annually. This makes it a major contributor to global plastic pollution and a leading source of marine debris. While there are efforts to address the problem, including recycling initiatives and policies, the sheer volume of waste and inadequate infrastructure pose significant challenges. The country is ranked among the top 10 global plastic waste polluters. Lagos, the commercial capital, generates approximately 870,000 tons of plastic waste annually, most of which are sachet water bags and single-use plastics that end up in waterways and landfills. Factors contributing to the problem: rapid population growth, lack of adequate waste management infrastructure, low recycling rates of 10% to 12%, bulk importation of plastics, low collection rates, environmental and health impact, pollution of water, bodies, soils, and the air, microplastics entering the food chain, posing risks to human and animal health, uncontrolled dump sites that contribute to soil and water contamination. Efforts to address the problem, government initiatives to implement policies and regulations aimed at reducing plastic waste, including bans on single-use plastics and plans for phased elimination. Recycling initiatives focusing on community engagement and waste collection. Circular economy principles to promote reuse and recycle rather than discard. Key achievements in Nigeria: delivered the national guidelines for the implementation of extended producer responsibility (EPR) for packaging aligned with circular economy principles. Held multi-stakeholder consultations to build national buy-in and clarify roles in EPR implementation. Conducted field missions to key plastic packaging producers in Lagos, Kano, and Ogun states to assess readiness and foster collaboration. Developed a draft enforcement and compliance plan to support EPR rollout. Raised the visibility of Nesria's regulatory mandate, setting the stage for stronger engagement with producers. Identified the need for a national plastics registry to enhance traceability and industry accountability. Notable examples in Nigeria: Lagos Circular Economy Hotspot 2022, a platform to accelerate circular economy conversations and investments.
Towards implementing the small-scale funding agreement with Nesria and United Nations Environment Program with funding from the Japanese government. Stakeholders in the environment and plastic packaging sector converged in the nation's capital, Abuja, to put finishing touches on the national guidelines for the implementation of Extended Producer Responsibility Program for plastic packaging in Nigeria. In his welcome address during the stakeholders meeting, the Director General of Nesria, Professor Innocent Bariko, said that the proliferation of plastic packaging has led to significant environmental degradation that have affected our ecosystems, wildlife, and ultimately human health. Hence the need for urgent, effective waste management system. He went further to say that the guideline have set clear targets for collection, recycling, and recovery of plastic waste, ensuring that we move towards a circular economy where materials are reused or recycled rather than discarded. He expressed his appreciation to the government of Japan for the funding, UNEP for the support, the World Bank for their support, UNIDO and other international, national and individual experts for their technical support, dedication to work and participation in the project. Also at the stakeholder meeting, the Honorable Minister of Environment, Balarabe Abbas, posited that the sector-specific national guidelines were part of the measures being put in place by the federal government to tackle the problems of plastic pollution. He said that the national guidelines will serve as a roadmap to all stakeholders in the plastic packaging value chain for the effective implementation of the EPR program, as well as clearly defining the various obligations of all stakeholders in Nigeria.
Japan Circular Economy Projects, focused on capacity building and recycling innovation hubs. FMCG industry-led coalitions, e.g. Food and Beverage Recycling Alliance, FBRA, partner with recyclers to recover plastic packaging. Zimbabwe. Plastic pollution in Zimbabwe poses significant environmental and public health challenges. The country generates over 300,000 tons of plastic waste annually, much of which is improperly disposed of, with low waste collection rates leading to clogged sewers and storm drains. This mismanagement contributes to flash floods and the spread of waterborne diseases such as cholera and dysentery. Despite a partial ban on certain plastic products, enforcement remains inconsistent. Items like K-Lite, expanded polystyrene, are still widely used, especially in informal markets. The Environmental Management Agency, EMA, has initiated measures to reduce plastic waste, including promoting recycling and advocating for biodegradable alternatives. However, challenges persist due to limited resources and public awareness. Community-led initiatives are emerging as effective responses to the crisis. In Harare's Glenview suburb, a group of women under the Zero Waste Initiative collect and sort plastic waste, which they resell to recycling companies. This not only reduces environmental pollution, but also provides income opportunities for local residents. Educational institutions are also contributing to the effort. At Makomo Primary School in Epworth, students participate in an environment club that recycles plastic waste into creative items like school bags and model generators. The club collaborates with a waste management firm to sell sorted plastics, integrating environmental education with practical recycling efforts. These initiatives underscore the importance of community engagement and education in addressing plastic pollution. However, comprehensive strategies involving stricter enforcement of regulations, increased public awareness, and investment in waste management infrastructure are essential for sustainable progress.
The advancing circularity in the management of plastics in Nigeria and Zimbabwe has been quite instrumental in shaping the environmentally sound management of plastic waste in Zimbabwe. Plastic waste is emerging as a very significant stream of pollution to the environment that is causing pollution not only in aquatic environments but also in terrestrial environments. The project that we implemented in Zimbabwe was focusing on 4 key areas, which is number 1, to quantify the microplastics contamination in the Zambezi catchment, as well as to also look at producing an extended producer responsibility roadmap, as well as also coming up with incentives and an inventory of the plastics waste being produced in the country. These key outputs have been quite instrumental in promoting sustainable management, in quantifying the amount of plastic waste that is going to the environment. This will also inform our policy, which is evidence-based, and the extended producer responsibility roadmap will assist the country in mobilizing resources that will also be able to be channeled towards the management of plastics. Microplastic pollution is a significant and emerging concern in quite a number of countries, and unfortunately in Zimbabwe we don't have a baseline as to the amount of microplastic contamination that is going to the environment. The project assisted us in training our officers, building capacity, providing instrumentation that will be able to capacitate the Environmental Management Agency in the quantification of microplastic contamination in the Zambezi Valley. Being a pilot project, the project will be expanded, and we're including it in our ambient monitoring plan, ambient monitoring system, where we monitor 356 points in rivers across the country. We are now in the process of analyzing samples that have been collected, and we are looking forward to sharing that information with policymakers as well as the general public. The expanded producer responsibility plan is quite important in mobilizing resources that can be able to manage circularity, promote circularity, and bring industry into the frame. The extended producer responsibility program is also quite important in giving key responsibilities to importers, manufacturers, and distributors of plastic waste to ensure that they also design their products in a manner that is consistent with the tenets of environmental sustainable management, particularly recyclability as well as the safety of the products that are being produced. In terms of incentives, we do realize that the country requires incentives to incentivize industry to come up with plans for managing its plastic waste, post-consumer waste. And we have developed a plan of incentives that will then be adopted or adapted by government to then come up with mechanisms to promote environmental sustainability. And this dovetails with the collective aspirations in terms of the National Development Strategy 1, which has got a priority in terms of environmental protection and sets targets for recycling of plastic waste.
Zimbabwe is making significant strides toward a circular plastic economy, focusing on reducing plastic waste through recycling and upcycling initiatives that also foster economic empowerment. On an industrial scale, companies like Stable Packaging in Masvingo process approximately 15 metric tons of plastic waste monthly, transforming it into products such as irrigation pipes and planter bags. This initiative not only reduces plastic pollution, but also provides employment opportunities, particularly for women who collect and supply the plastic waste. These collective efforts underscore Zimbabwe's commitment to a circular plastic economy, turning environmental challenges into opportunities for sustainable development and community empowerment. Key achievements in Zimbabwe: conducted the first ever microplastics assessment in the Manyame River Basin to establish environmental and groundwater baselines. Produced an updated plastic flow inventory to guide policy decisions and optimize resource allocation. Developed national recycling guidelines to standardize waste practices and improve recyclate quality. Completed a cost-benefit analysis on the recycling of PET, HDPE, LDPE and PP plastics, highlighting economic potential and infrastructure gaps. Designed a phased EPR roadmap to support inclusive integration of informal waste workers. Challenges that remain. Despite progress, challenges exist. Inadequate waste management infrastructure, limited financing for large-scale recycling, fragmented informal waste sector needing more integration and protection, need for national policy enforcement and monitoring. Despite the numerous challenges, this project will continue to positively and progressively impact the use, reuse, and recycling of plastics in Africa through the support of partners such as the Japanese government and with the partnership of government agencies, private sector, and the public at large. Our collective membership to the Africa Circular Economy Alliance will also lead to better coordinated and integrated approaches towards transitioning to circular economies for the continent of Africa. Together we can scale up our circular plastic economy.